Good day to everybody. My name is David Jalali. I am an author and I've written multiple books. One of them is on terrorism, the truth. Terrorism, the truth is one of my books that is available on Amazon.com. As a citizen of United States and a researcher, I've been seeing various events happening in United States, which is very discomforting, the least. And after my retirement, I decided to write a few books and do some research, and lately decided to post some videos on the current events. As a citizen, I'm concerned, like everybody else, and I have been thinking how I can help to promote peace and coexistence within the community and the country as a whole and the world in other sense. I've decided to post these videos to help promote peace and coexistence. My speeches and my video talks are not for people who are seeking violence. It's for people who are seeking truth. Therefore, I have concluded that the best I can do, maybe post these videos and even a few people or whoever listens to it by relaying the research findings that I have found out within the past 20 years since 2001 will help promote knowledge and understanding in the community and the society, the country, and the world. And therefore, to help promote peace. I've been thinking for a while, what is the best way I can do that? As I said, that's I found out these videos probably is the best I can do to get the word out, to create an understanding, because ignorance is actually lack of knowledge, and the ignorance which is created by entertainment industry. Entertainment, as you know, means to keep people entertained, and entertainment is not all necessarily the facts. It's what people like to be entertained, and for the people entertainers who provide this entertainment, the motive for them is money. To make money of the entertainment, and the purpose of entertainment is to keep people entertained. Unnecessary does not mean that is giving people the facts, and actually the more ignorance from it actually expands in a society, and the more entertainment makes money and gets people away from the uh, pressing issues in a society, which are causing the turmoil and the destruction and the riots or demonstrations, whatever you call them, depending which group you are part of, uh, which is hurting the country. And we live in America, and these kind of activities is eventually going to impact all of us. And we all have a duty as a citizen to do what we can to promote understanding, so people can resolve problems through understanding and through dialogue rather than violence. You know, violence is the tools of a state, um, and but the tools of the free people is dialogue, is understanding, is communication. Now, having said that, we need to study why these situations, I mean, these demonstrations and these riots or these unnecessary killing and dangerous violence and unnecessary violence comes from. We whenever we want to resolve an issue, we need to analyze an issue and go to the roots of the issue. If you go to the roots, solve the problem through the roots, we can solve the problem. But if we're trying to just keep solving problems before going to the roots of those problems, then we're going to spend all of our life fighting these problems. And unfortunately, after a while, one side gets tired, the problem turned into violence and unnecessary killing, and then destruction of the society, and becomes dangerous for everybody who lives in that society. We do not want to happen because all the people that live in this society in America or in the world, they are interconnected. If, as Martin Luther King well said, injustice anywhere, uh, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. That means that, so we want to, by going to the roots of the problems, we can solve the injustice and solve the problem from the roots, and hopefully will be dealt with for ever. In order to do that, we need to do some analysis of why these problems are created. These riots on and off, like for example, or these demonstrations, and some individuals turn them to riots, which is wrong. And but mostly in the initial of these demonstrations is peaceful, and most of them, if not all, for justifiable cause. But the people who turn them into violence, those are could be individuals with special interests, either from the groups who are committing these crimes, these causes of these demonstrations, which is racism, and most of these demonstrations, if you go to the roots of them, most of them, if not all of them, are for disparity in the society. I mean, poverty and discrimination. Now, some of the source of poverty is because of discrimination. So basically, when we're going back and keep going to the roots of these demonstrations and these riots, or whatever you call them, depending which side you are, now, all of these, we come to I have researched it, and I have concluded that source of it, the roots of it is racism and discrimination in America. Now, there is anybody who has gone to school or even has studied the history of America, not what they teach you at the school. If you read what they teach you at the school, is not the whole history, is kind of fabricated part of it. For example, on Thanksgiving is the day is called a mourning day for the Native Americans who were massacred. Actually, they call it a mourning day. They mourn on that day. But the people who came to this country and killed these natives, they celebrated. You see, that's what I mean, which side of the story coin you are. But in anyhow, those people, original natives, are basically killed by the immigrants, and out of 140 million, which were like 500 years ago, there are only like 5 million left. So most of them were killed or through ethnic cleansing by the immigrants, the whites basically, who came and conquered America. So that's the true history, which may be referred to in part of it in books that you learn in school. But if you want to know really more about it and the facts, you have to do research on your own through various sources other than just academic in school. And yeah, also the fact that the slavery in America was the only country only 50 years ago would force 10 or 11% of its population to sit in back of the bus. So see, the systematic racism, the slavery was until 150 years ago. The blacks were chained to work for free, and then there was a South and North fight in America. Now, books tell you that was to free the slaves because all of a sudden they cared about the slave. But that is another fabricated history. And the truth, that's what I mean when we go into the roots of it. We need to go to the roots, admit what the cause are, and then we can solve a problem. By education, I'm an engineer. Engineers, they are problem solvers. But in order for us to solve the problem, we have to go to the roots of the problem. Now, the roots of all these riots, I'm trying to get to that. So I need to give you a brief background. The blacks were enslaved. They were human. They were part of citizens of this country, even so they were not considered citizens until much later. But still, they were human. They just had different color of skin, and they feel pain the same way. They think, they eat, to do everything the white person does, the black person does too. But they were discriminated against the blacks because of their skin, and they were chained and for free labor. And there was the war of North and the South because the South was using the free labor for production of produce, and the North didn't have free labor. They had to pay for the labor. As one of important cost of any product, when you manufacture product, I've been self-employed. I know a business owner. I know major cost of a self-employed business is labor. Once you have a free labor, then your products can be, you sell it a lot cheaper and you make a lot more profit now versus somebody who has to pay for that labor. And that was the cause of the war between North and South, civil war in America. Now, the books in school tells you is because the North had a bigger heart, and all of a sudden they loved the blacks, and that's a lie. Again, that's why we are having all these problems because nobody talks about the facts. And mainstream media doesn't tell you the facts. If you read the book Manufacturing Consent by Noam Chomsky, which was written in 1988, you see that the media is a corporate media in America, the news. They have to tell you something that makes money because they are profit oriented. They have to make profits. By telling you the facts, necessarily they don't make profits. So they have to fabricate it, to suit it to in a way that in line that generate more profit for them. So they fabricate it, turn it into entertainment. There is no news. It's entertainment. It's a show to make money to get you entertained. Once you get entertained, they take your money through entertainment, and then you work like a slave. So basically, the slavery that was done over 100 years ago for about 400 years through chains and lashes now is done through entertainment and finance. But even if entertainment and was accurate information, historical information, maybe the corporations wouldn't make as much money. So they have to fabricate it. Like even if a finance was fair, the biggest companies, the profitable companies, in the United States wouldn't be finance companies. But there is a hidden agenda behind each tactic to entertain people and chain them through finance to enslave them through modern slavery. I think that is the source of the problem for all of these riots and unfortunate killings in the country, which is endangering everybody. The source, the roots are finance, which is unfair financing, like the banks own basically the country, and then in the slavery, the discrimination, and the racism. Those two are the two main sources and roots of the problem that's what's going on in America. For example, you buy a home for example, 500,000. You bank charge you like 4 or 5% interest rate for 30 years. By the time you pay it, you add it up. You pay over $1 million, $2 million by the time you own the house. You see, and then if you are one day late, they charge you like a couple of $100, some $100. But if you have for example, a credit card that you get a refund on your credit card, just compare the two. See where when I say it's unfair. You get a credit card, you buy a product, like $2, $3,000. Then you get a reimbursed because you cancel it and they credit to your credit card. It takes the banks like up to a month to give your money back. They keep the interest. You don't they pay don't pay you any interest. They keep the interest. They keep using your money for a month. By the time you get the check back to go cash it, and maybe it takes another week to cash it. It may take well over a month for you to get the money that was returned to your bank, to your credit card, over almost a month ago. But on the other side, if you borrow like 500,000 interest rate, you pay millions by the time you pay it off. But if you pay well, 1 day late, they're going to charge you hundreds of dollars in late fees. You see how that goes? That's what I mean. That's an example why the banking system is unfair and is enslaving the people. This was the tactic the old British Empire used to circumvent, to basically conquer the colonies and make the people obedient in the colonies. They make them owe money, charge them interest for a long time, and keep owing them. Like if you borrow 500,000, the interest, you're actually owing a million and a half, and you only borrow the 500,000 house. You see how that goes? And then but even you could live with that. Then once you get your money into the bank, you want to get it out, you have to go through hoops. I'll give you an example like credit card. That is why that's unfair to finance. And there are many instances, like sometimes you get charged interest on a credit card like 1.5% per day, or per month like 1.5%. Some places per day interest is, you just want to cash a check, or you want to use a cash advance to see how much they charge you. But once you give your money goes to them, they take their time to give it back to you. That's an unfair relationship example. I mean, there are many examples that if you research the relationship between banks and customers and the charges and how they treat the customers, you find many instances like that. They manipulate the enslaved people. That's why people get poorer, and maybe one or two people get rich, come up, and poorer. And the roots of these problems is because the system is corrupt. Now, I'm telling you one at a time. Finance, for example, on this stock market, you hear from Trump's when they want to, he just, the stock market is going to, the stock market is doing good, but 40 million Americans are out of job. They're like over 30 million can't pay their rent. That is like a good percent of the population, almost 50% of the population either uh, homeless, out of a job, or sick and can't go to the doctor. These they don't see these. They all tell you about stock market. Like what percentage of American own a stock market, and how much a stock market is a manipulation. Again, that's unfair. It's part of the finance. I'm going to look at it. Like for example, a company sells the stock at $300, and once he's already sells some to his own people, and there are people that in Congress and in the part of that company that they know how the company is going to behave. They have insider information when they are part of the government. And then right before they split the stock, they distribute it to some, and then once they split it, each of them owns five stocks, and they sell it 1,000 each. By manipulating the numbers and even financials that they give out, financial statements, like manipulating the numbers. They get people, get the money invested in the stock, and all of a sudden, once the stock collapses, when it gets to a bubble, they get it high enough. They can falsify information, get it high enough. The stock market crashes. Then, like 90 people, 99 people get bankrupt, lose all their money. One person, maybe the corporation who own the stocks, he becomes a billionaire. The same way we see right now. Within the past 7 months with coronavirus, over 180,000 people have died in America, the richest country and the strongest country in the world. At the same token, the president of this country, who is a billionaire, he's blaming other poor people who, for hunger, they come to street to riot, to demonstrate, or they demonstrate against their discrimination and racism because police, or to protect the ruling class, the military kills them, whether inside America or outside America. And then they blame those poor people that they say your economy is bad because these people came and demonstrated against racism and discrimination. Then you're not making money. See, they blame, they throw blame things on people. A rich man, a billionaire, sits there and blames the poverty on the some poor people out of hunger come to the streets. When the ones who don't come to the streets go belly up and they complain, how come we don't have nothing? You see, this is lie and tactic they use, which is unfair. These are the roots of the problem. Because a rich man who is a billionaire never really work a day in his life is not going to be able to take care of the poor people. Doesn't care, doesn't know. The same way that we see today. Now, we say this is finance part problem. Now, a slavery part problem, as you see, there is a racism because imagine, for example, today is August, I believe 28th, if I'm not mistaken, Friday, August 28th, like 27 yesterday, last night there was Republican National Convention. By the way, I am not, I'm independent. I'm not registered with either parties. I'm independent. I just don't go based on a group. I select and I judge based on actions, not what people say. Because anybody lies, and lying is not against the law. And the biggest liar in the world, with the most number of lies, is the president, our president, president of the United States. And you don't need me. If you don't believe me, just research on the internet. A number of lies he's been in the office past 3.5 years. In his speech last night, he turns back in the middle of his speech, if you know, and he says, looks at the White House and says, "What is the name of this place? This is my home." And he's a white person himself, and the blacks are a lot of them are rioting, are being killed on the streets in America. He turns back to that and he said, "This I'm gonna call it my home, and I'm comfortable." White House is call it my home, a white president. Why do you think he's referring that? He's putting more fuel on the fire. So if people listen, why should the home, the house where a president of the United States uses for home, why should it be called White House? Why not called Black House or Yellow House or Red House? There are Redskins, basically Indians were the original owners of this land. These whites came from Europe and killed them and took over the land for free and started selling it to us, everybody else, for billions of dollars, making like the farms on it. And I killed those people. Okay, now they take them, but there are blacks, they brought blacks here as a slave. So the blacks live here. Some Indians left. There were 140 million Indians when this country was discovered by the white from Europe, basically came here, or Hispanic in the middle, in the Central America and Southern America. And now there are less than 5 million Indians are left, American Indians, natives in continental United States. Why is that? Because they killed most of them. Why? If population of 140 million from 500 years ago should be about a billion now, whereas now there are only 5 million, they diminished because they were killed. They were located to areas they couldn't live, they couldn't survive, they couldn't farm, and the farmland and good land were taken away from them. They were massacred. So this is the mentality, this is the system that we have. So the roots of the problem is the system that need correct. Not doesn't people come and go in the system. The president, they say anything you want to hear to get your vote. What they do, they commit the same atrocity and criminals as the other one. Some people maybe say a better lie to fool the people, and some people don't not as good liars. Is lawyers. So that's it. That's what it is. So why should that place the president of the United States lives in should be called White House? It should be called President's House or Presidential Palace, or if it is called a palace. And while so this is he uses that in his speech as a reference to his race. That is for the white is my home, and for because he's a white president, White House. I'm going to call it my home. You see how that goes? And the people, mostly white over there, they clap for him and they do because he supports their cause too. That they are his base. These are the problem that causes these riots because America, that you see, the center of most cities are on fire and people are dying. And the solution is not send the military in there or Secret Service or plain clothes federal officers or plain car is in there to kidnap him, take him, beat him up, or send persuade, or by talking like that, divisive talk, send white gun men who are maybe kids. There was a 17-year-old kid who killed two people in one of these demonstrations in Kenosha, as you know. The kid is 17 years old. How do you think, why do you think the 17-year-old picks up a semi-automatic gun, rifle, and goes into the street and shoot people to kill them, and police is walking alongside of him. That police is redneck, is a prejudiced racist like him too. Why the police should disarm those people? Why people bring arms into demonstrations? It's not a war zone. If they bring, then those other people who demonstrating should they bring, and then everybody starts shooting. It's going to be a war zone. Then people are going to kill. That's not the solution. Solution should be police should disarm anybody who's not sworn officer of the law. I mean, and then this wouldn't have happened. So but because police is also in America are consist mainly of these ex-soldiers. You know, there is a saying that, well, Malcolm X, he said in his one of his speech, if you listen to him on the internet, he says the riots that were happening back in 60s, he says the chickens have come home to roost. America, if you look at, now let's look at a little bit foreign history of America. Inside, we talked about these issues, problem inside racism. This racism is also happening internationally too by United States, invading countries in the world, past 20 years, look at them, Iraq, Afghanistan, all been destroyed. I've talked about this in my previous talks, but I still have to mention them because this is related to this issue that we are trying to identify the roots of what's happening in America. Is also related to American foreign policy. America supports racist regimes like Zionist regime of Israel, which is in a one religion regime, and is a regime that is built based on racism, only favoring Jews against anybody else who lived there, was born on that land, evicting all of them, demolishing their home, and keep building a nation based on one race, apartheid nation, based on Jimmy Carter's book, uh, Palestine, peace, not apartheid. Apartheid, look at South Africa. That was apartheid up to early 80s. That was only supported to the last day by United States and UK. You see, when I say system is the problem, I'm telling you this is the system that does those, whether foreign, internationally, or domestically. I told you about domestically, internationally. Look at invading Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, all of these, and to help that one religion state, Zionist state, to grow, to take over that region, so supporting racism overseas, and then supporting tyranny, Saudi Arabia, UAE, those Arab Gulf states. America is allies with all the dictators in that region who have never had election. They oppress their own people, and they just serve the agenda of racism, agenda of an apartheid agenda of America overseas foreign policy. You see, and those are enforced. These kind of overseas policies, foreign policies, are enforced by American soldiers who go out there in these countries, and then if they fight these wars emotionally, they get impacted. And then when they come back, return home, chickens have come home to roost. They cannot cope with the society. They cannot do any other job. All they know is killing. And why do the soldiers invade another country in a war? They're invading there to kill those people because the war is killing, it's terrorism. So they saw they invading those countries through war, invasion, occupation, and terrorism, and take over those countries and kill them. And after so many years, they get impacted, and psychologically they get impacted. They come back home. So a lot of them cannot get sick. They cannot get a job, and some of them are crippled. So a lot of them die. Like at Vietnam, 50,000 Americans died. Look at in Afghanistan war, how many soldiers they died and how many got uh, sick, they got paralyzed, they got crippled, they got handicapped, and the ones who came back maybe semi healthy, there is nothing else they can do. They don't know anything else unless they go become police. So for the police departments, the first priority is hire these ex-soldiers because they are VA and get extra points, and they get in there, and when they go into the streets, they deal the same way that they were dealing in foreign countries, which there were no laws. They were raping people, killing people, get drunk, and there is no when you American soldiers invade the country like Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Syria, or Lebanon, and all these countries in there, they there is no laws there to prevent them. I mean, nobody can prosecute an invader army which comes with gun blazing, killing people. What court is going to prosecute them? Where is the prosecutor? So they kill whoever doesn't listen to them or doesn't operate, and they come to the United States. They act the same way as the police, now legally with a badge. So when they arrest somebody for like George Floyd for $20, they kill the guy. Why would they kill the guy for $20? Let him go. What is gonna you have his address, you get his driver license, you can go to arrest him. You don't have to kill him. You don't have to make a scene and that kill him in there. You can still arrest him with five or six people. One person can arrest, or even if he gets away, you can go to his home and bring 20 people unarmed and go arrest him. At least don't kill him because he's a citizen, a human being, And look at in Kenosha, this guy, he's 17-year-old guy. He picks up a gun and goes in there to try to put the riot out. What is he trying to protect? If we have a police, we have government police, we have military, we have national guard. Why the citizen is picking up a gun and go enforce the law where he wasn't asked to do that. He wasn't deputized and he wasn't given authority and he wasn't a sworn officer. He goes there and creates more problem, and the system allows that. You see that because he's white and he's going to demonstration which is for killing of black people. Is racism again? See, that's the basic what I'm saying. So we want to go to the roots of problem, and I'm going to give you the solution after I do. But I want to make sure everybody understand this first. My intention is to have peace in America. I love America. I think it's a great country as a country. It's a beautiful land, a beautiful people, and I hate any of them to get hurt. I feel sorry. I mean, as a human being, as the people I live around me, I don't want anybody to get hurt. I want everybody to be happy, to go about their life, um, enjoy their life, and live a long life happily. And then I can live a long life, and my life would be peaceful. So I'm trying to say these things to go to the root of the problem, to solve it issue. I'm not trying to make money here. Nobody pay me to do that. I do that on my own time because I feel as a citizen I'm obligated wherever I live, community, I can either be part of a solution or part of the problem. I want to be part of a solution. And this, what I'm doing, it comes to my mind to be a solution. So now, we say racism and support of tyranny, those dictatorships outside, make these soldiers basically kind of criminal, semi-criminal, or sick, or or whatever, and they were more healthy, become police, and that's what these things happen. Otherwise, if and then we should not, our president should not look at the White House and say that is my, or look at that. What's the name of this place? Because he's white, he said, then look around, look at. He's saying because I'm white. This is White House. This is my home. It's not a black person home. It's not a yellow person home. Even if they live in this country and they are citizens, or red. See, personally, I am white. I am not a red. I'm not yellow. I'm not black. But I am not a racist white. I believe that all the human, no matter what color of the skin they are have equal rights, and they should have equal opportunities. And because we are all the same, the only thing is different color of skin is because where we live. Like if people who live in, for example, London, I have said that before, they have fairer skin because in London, in England, 9 months a year, you don't see much of sun. It's always foggy during the year. It's not really a hot sun over there to turn the skin darker. The people who live in Africa, because generations, like thousands of years have lived in Africa and with the blazing sun, 120, 130, 150 degrees sometimes, they turn darker. It's just like you go to the ocean to get a suntan. If you go there and sleep there 20 years, Yeah, and your generation, every generation going there, your kids go there, yourself, you grow, you just stay, live there, you're going to become darker. You look at Hawaii, they are a little bit darker. And the people here in areas which are less sun, they are lighter skin. See, that's the only difference between human, because where they live, otherwise they're all human, and as Einstein well says, peace is not kept by force. Peace is obtained by understanding. My intention is to create understanding. That's what I'm saying. So once we understand we're all human, we all have equal rights, and nobody has the right to enslave another one, nobody has the right to discriminate another one, then we're gonna have the understanding. For example, see myself, I have been in America since I was a teenager. And why did I come to America? People tell me you don't like America, go back sometime. I love America. I think it's a beautiful country, as I said. But I didn't come here by choice. See, in the country that I was born, when I was in high school, I was trying to go college. There were not enough universities, not because the country was poor. The country was very rich and had only like 30 million people, and had was the income just from the government was hundreds of billions of dollars per year because of the natural resources the country had. But the government that was elected by the people of that country two times, during the 100 years from 1920 in 1953, first by United Kingdom, which was colonizing those regions, invaded the country and toppled the democratic system, which was spending the money from the government, the income of the country, on the people and building universities, colleges for people to prosper, topple that government, and then instead says, come buy arms from us and pay it to us so we can come and build the things for you that we can use ourselves to occupy your country back in then. And then the people in my country, they again revolted and basically in 1953 elected a democratic elected prime minister. And then CIA, this time CIA, United States, in 1953 with the UK, toppled this government and then put a puppet dictator in power like Saudi Arabia king, like United Arab Emirates, like Jordan, like Egypt, like Oman, Kuwait, all those countries. They put these dictators in place, and in my country, and they were where I was born, and they forced him to sign two contracts with the United States and UK to get 80% of the income of the country to be distributed 40% to United States, 40% to UK. Now, if you want to verify these, they can be verified. If you search 1953 CIA coup d'etat, Ajax is the name, you can read about it. Stephen Kinzer is a professor at Northeastern University and 20 years head of the, I believe was New York Times in Ankara, Turkey, in the Middle East, and he has written a good book. It's called All Shah's Men. If you read that, there are CIA documents. You can go to CIA.gov or you can go to George Washington University's archives or other universities, even online. You don't even have to do that. Even nowadays with Google, you can search about 1953 revolution, Ajax, or 1920 revolution, 1920 um, coup d'etat, British coup d'etat in Iran 1920, and CIA coup d'etat in Iran 1953. So the Iran back in 1953, they made the Shah, made them two contracts. 80% was go to United States, and then they said United States basically brings 60,000 people like soldiers in there, brought it to Iran, that was where I was born. And then what you do is they were building, for example, roads which Iranians could build themselves. And the Shah wasn't allowed basically to spend that money because it was a puppet dictator. He had to pay to the United States and UK for him to be a staying power. And the other 20%, they brought them to US every few years on England and sold them tanks and like Saudi, what they do with Saudi Arabia, and sold them planes, and the rest of it spent on his family. All the villages were gathered people living in ghettos, no water, drinking water, no sewer, and in this only the city, the capital, Tehran, maybe on the north was they made that nice because mostly the Americans live there and the elite live there. But the south of the Tehran was basically dirt water people did, and the oil was going. We didn't have enough schools, enough education, illiteracy. Iran before the 1979 was 85% up to 1979, 85% couldn't read and write. We have like a handful of universities with 5 million population, but at the same time, the Shah was selling oil 7 million barrels a day at $35 back then, which is $350 of it today. 7 million barrels at $350 today. See, calculate how much money is that. But it was going to US. There was not enough university. So what? That's why I didn't have a chance to go to university. I wanted to go become an engineer. I just liked studying to be educated. So back then there were like 400,000 Iranian students in the United States, and in Iran there were less than 200,000. A lot of them couldn't even go to the study the same degree they wanted, not because the country didn't have the wealth to provide the university or provide the health care, the education the country wanted, but because it was occupied on the US and it was supported by a dictator. So I didn't have a choice. So they said the only option I had was go to another country who had the universities and pay to go get education. Then I came to United States and I went to university and got my degree, and then I started paying for my own education and got a job because I was hired out of university, right? I mean, as an engineer, there was shortage of engineers here. And then I started here. Not that I don't like it here, not that I regret it, because it turned out to be good for me. But throughout, when I the first I got job, I was working at 7-Eleven at night and go to school during the days. And 7-Eleven, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Work at 7-Eleven is on Seal Beach here. There's a 7-Eleven. Across it, there was a Red Onion disco back then, like 40 years, 45 years ago when I was going to college. And then at night, 11 to 7 in the morning, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., I was working 7-Eleven. At 8 a.m., I was in chemistry class at Cal State Long Beach up to 12 noon. 12 noon, eat a hamburger, go to library, study, and then sleep a couple of hours. 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., I had highway design and engineering classes at night classes. And from 9:30 that I would get out of the class 10, I would straight go to 7-Eleven again, work at night. Every 2, 3 days, I would come home, change my clothes, take a shower because I would smell after 3 days of working, and then go back to work the same routine until I got my degree in 4 years, 4.5 years. And then I went for got a job when I went for interviews. Now, let me tell you, when I was going for interview, actually one of the students at the Castle Long Beach, he was American lady. She was kind of mathematic, a lot of Americans, as you know, they have problems. But my math was very strong because my major was mathematics. So a lot of these algebra classes, I didn't even have to go, but I would ace them. And then if somebody need help, they would ask me, some of the Americans. This lady asked me if I can tutor. And she said she pay me, I said, I don't need money. It's okay. I help you. I would, after class, 1 hour, and sit outside on the grass lawn, and I would teach a little bit calculus and stuff to her, explain so she can. And then he said, by the way, my brother, I said, what's going to happen to you? I said, well, if we finish, I have to go back to Iran because I came here to study and go back. He says, my brother has a laboratory. And then I started, needs help. It's a water and wastewater treatment. And that's part of the civil engineering, is environmental engineering. And I started working there part time, actually full time during between my classes, and 7-Eleven let it go. And that was my senior year. Then I started looking for engineering jobs. Actually, these companies would come to school to Carousel Long Beach the last semester in the placement center. And a few companies interviewed me, and but they would take like 6 months to give me an answer because they had to check things. In the meanwhile, I said, what do I do? I still kept looking go for interviews outside university. I remember I would call these headhunters, and they send me to an interview in City of Industry. I've been subject to discrimination. I'm going to tell you my first-hand experience. This is going to define what the roots of today. You see, I have experienced it as a white person. Maybe national origin is not from Europe or someplace, but I do I look like black myself? No, but I don't think there is no difference between me and a black person and a red person, a yellow person, as far as comes to the rights, to what we are entitled to, and to everything else. We all have should be equal, I think, as a white person. But I went to the days, I was sent to an interview in City of Industry back in 1980, 81. I went for an interview. I was helping also the instructor in the Souls Laboratory at Long Beach, a transportation lab, Souls Lab, construction material testing lab. And I would write reports. I took my samples with me to the interview. The headhunter told me, when you go to this interview, the guy pays $12 an hour back in 1981, 80, 81, and it was a private laboratory. I said, well, that's okay. I needed to start. It I didn't really care how much I'm going to get paid. I just want to get the experience. So I went there to the interview, and the owner of the company in City of Industry interviewed me. He says, I showed him my Souls lab. He asked me what you worked on. He says, well, you're qualified. It seems like you meet the job. Look at my laboratory reports that I written. He said, oh, these are very good, uh, and everything okay. But how much money you want? I told him, you know what? It doesn't really matter how much you pay me. I'm willing to work for free. And if you like what I do, then you pay me a few days later. He said, well, you have a very good attitude too. I said, well, it doesn't matter. He said, but you have to tell me. He says, no, but I can't. But you have to tell me how much you want. I knew the job was paying $12. I told him, I was thinking I say less, so he hires me because I really want to get into the professional engineering job. And that was one step closer for me. I want to get into design and stuff, but this was very good. It was a good experience. I said, how about $9 pay me? $3 less per hour than was paying the job. I knew the guy told me it's $12 an hour, but I told $9 to just get the job. That's all I cared about. He says, well, that's very good. I told you you have good attitude, and I like that. But you know what? I said, what? He says, I would rather hire an American. I asked him, what is the difference? I shocked, and I didn't know anybody would say that into your face. This is like 40 years ago, 1980. And he says, well, rather hire an American. I said, what is the difference? Because he says, have you been, and you know what he told me? I asked him, then why? What's the difference? Because I consider myself American in a sense, but other people didn't. And they were right. I was wrong. So, because I was very young, I was like in my 20s, early 20s, and like 21, 22, 23-year old kid, basically. And then I said, what is the difference? He said, then the guy told me, the owner of the company, that told me that, have you been here longer than blacks? And I said, of course not. I knew the blacks were here 500 years, and I know a little bit they were slave at one point and stuff, but I didn't know much about it. And I said, of course not, I haven't been here. I've only been here like maybe 5 or 6 years. And then he says, I do not think they are American. And then I thought, and for a second, and I said, okay. I got up the chair. I extended my hand and I said, thank you very much. Shake his hand. And he turned kind of red, he blushed, and he says, why you thank me? I said, you know what? What you did today, you opened up my eye. I was ignorant. I didn't see the lack of knowledge is ignorant. I said, up to this moment, I was ignorant. I thought there is no difference. Now I experience the racism. Someday I'm going to open my own company and I'm going to hire your kid and I'm going to kick his ass out of there, not because he is black, white, or because he's race, because if he doesn't perform up to my standard, because I'm going to be a fair person. I don't care what color, what race, what anybody is. I'm going to judge people based on their actions. But someday I'm going to hire your kid, open my company. I came out and that motivated me. I worked even harder. And then I got a job, another company when I went to Arizona, and then I didn't like it 3 months, and I was applying like 100 at different companies. I mean, while I wasn't satisfied with what I had, because this up to today, 40 years later, this thing is still is a song in my ear. This is what America is all about. This is the source of source of this problem. We have a racist president and a racist secretary of state and a racist crew who have occupied the president's house. I don't call it the White House because that doesn't necessarily belong to only whites. Because in America, there are blacks, there are whites, there are yellow, there are red, and I'm Caucasian, I'm white. So there are all sorts of people who make America. America is not only belong to white people, despite the fact, but a lot of people think the same way that the guy who interviewed me 40 years ago. That is the source of problem. Because those people have with money, 70% of the wealth of this country belongs to the people with origin from Europe, from Britain, British origin, racist. British were racist to the colonizing people. Read their history. There's nothing to deny. The British were the one who came here and brought the blacks and make them a slave. Of course, the first black was sold to the first slave owner, the Portuguese, by black either tribes leader or blacks would capture blacks in Africa and sell them into slavery. It's their own problem, part of it, because their own. But for me, I didn't think this violence was the solution to that. I think I was smart enough. I figured, I think if I'm smarter than 50% of the society in America, then I should do better than over 50% of society. And I did. But I realize now than ever that violence is the tools of states. As we see, a state sends the National Guard. Trump sends National Guard police to beat people up, kill youth, American youth, because they are deprived, they are hungry, they are sick, they are poor, they are out of a job, they come into the street, and government sends the police and the guard beat them up and kill them, and the ignorant racists pick up guns and go shoot them. But I'm neither racist nor terrorist like Trump and the ones who occupy the White, like America's American government. I am an ordinary American citizen who worked hard, paid my taxes, and tried all of my life to be obedient citizen, law abiding citizen, obedient of the law or law abiding citizen. And so far, and I'm too old now. I'm basically retired, and I'm glad that I was. I'm glad, I'm against violence. Violence is not going to solve anything. You can't put fire out with adding gasoline on it. You have to put the fire out, pouring water on it, which is cold. So you have to be cool. You have to use your mind. You have to be smart and stay calm. I get upset. I'm like any other human. We all have emotions. We have emotions. After when I'm upset, I go drink a glass of water or go sit and close the room to myself and relax. I don't even drink alcohol to get relaxed because if I want to drink, I don't drink alcohol. But if I wanted to do it, I would do it when I'm happy to be happy, not because of sadness. That's stupid. You become alcoholic. Or become drunk. When you're upset, the best thing is you go drink a cold water. And if you really have energetic to let out, go run, go jog, go exercise, do 100 to 50 push-ups. Every morning I do 50 push-ups, 50 set-ups, 50 stretch legs, everything 50. Then I get tuned for the day. And I drink tea and coffee during the day and water most of the time. I love coffee in the morning and tea during the day and water the rest. Or orange juice I like too. And I cook myself. So, but I stay, everything has a solution, and violence is not a solution to anything. But American government, as we said, the source of the problem is for what we see today because the chickens have come home to roost. American government who has been terrorizing the world all these to topple a democratically elected government, for example, in Iran back in 53, they promoted riots, like the same thing you see happening in the United States through CIA agents. hiring thugs, sending them to the street, put the banks on fire. Even right now with the Iranian government, they have done it to topple this government because it's elected by 98% of the vote of the people. And United States doesn't like it because this government is not willing to buy, to sell the oil, 7 million barrels a day, and come and buy arms from United States, or house terrorists like Saudi Arabia, and cut heads, and don't let women drive. In Iran, even right now, even is not might not be the ideal government. I know I have problems. They are not, but still, women can drive. Women are parliamentarians. There are vice president women. There are women instructors, women professors, women judges in Iran, with Saudi Arabia, which is American allies, in those American allies companies like Saudi Arabia. Women cannot even vote, cannot even drive a car. You cannot criticize. There is no election in any of those countries. Iranians have had maybe 50 elections since the revolution. 4 years ago was the revolution. Every 2 years they have had election. So because 20, more than 20 elections they have had, and other elections in between. Everybody is elected, but America doesn't like it. It calls it a terrorist state, but his dictatorships itself calls them allies on the war against the terror. The terror that America creates itself, like the terror that's creating inside America, the American government. Number one enemy of American people is not China, is not Russia, is not Iran, is the United States government. Trump is the most dangerous president, dangerous person against ordinary Americans. As we see today, look at he in front of his speech inauguration, he wants to his Republican National Committee. He looks at the White House and says, "Why? What is the name of this place? My house. White person. He is. This is his house. It's not. See, he is promoting division in the country, and he is promoting because that's how he can get votes. He wants to show he he throws people at each other and then blames Democrats. Now I said I'm neither Democrat nor Republican. I'm independent. But he blames them because they cannot. And then he says he sends his troops in there. He beat everybody, but throw just see, I did, I'm good. And some ignorant people who do not know what the source of the problem is, they think he is a hero. But he is number one enemy. He is a murderer. He's a terrorist. Because look at what he does. And he lies. There is not a single truth in what he says. You know why he lies? He says that I'm going to cut the taxes more, and then I'm going to give people more, bring manufacturing in the United States, but I'm going to cut the taxes more, but I'm going to increase people benefits. I'm going to have executive orders for pharmaceuticals to cost the cost of medicine by 70%. There are three lies here. If you cut the taxes more than what it is, then where are you going to get the money to have $1 trillion, $1,000 billion military budget, which United States Congress passed 2 weeks ago? Even there were Democrats who passed it. So I said the system is the problem. It's not Democrat. It's not the system made of the politicians or the politicians who are a bunch of psychopaths, liars. They lie. Whoever lies better with a straight face and is more believable is going to get vote. But his agenda is to make money for the corporations to support them. They don't give a damn for American people. That's what I'm saying. We have to go to the root of the problem. There are three lies I said here. One of them, if he's not going to collect taxes, how are you going to get money to run the country? So, no, there is a lie in there. Second, what did he say? He said he's going to pharmaceutical. He's going to executive order cut the prescription cost 70%. You know, uh, recently, if you go research, Trump gave over $10 billion to pharmaceutical companies to develop a vaccine for COVID-19, for coronavirus, right? But so he gave the company the cost. Why do they have to cut it? Of course, they have to give whenever the cost. If the cost to the company is provided, the cost of producing something, then the company doesn't have any cost anymore. You should give the medicine for free. I mean, if it charges very little, not even 10% of the cost. The company should cost automatically because it doesn't have any cost for the company to produce the vaccine. Why should it cut something that doesn't cost you anything? How could you cut it 7%? Because 100% is paid by the government. So the cost of the corporations is socialized. That's okay to socialize the cost of the corporation by Trump administration, by these liars, these psychopaths, these terrorists. It's okay to socialize the cost, but it's not okay to give Medicare to the old people, to the sick who do out of a job, or give people $600 a week. They're fighting with the Congress. They don't want to give money to the states to be able to have testing for coronavirus, to provide health care for people. They cut the people's insurance, cut the Medicare, cut the Medicaid. So he's cutting people's benefits. Then he says, I'm going to cut the taxes. Who's going to taxes for the rich? Maybe Apple makes 1 year $500 million profit, or maybe Amazon. 10 people, Trump's friends, all of them are Trump's best friends. 10 people in America within the past 6 months made $400 billion profit. That's 40 billion each. Whereas over 180 million or 84,000 Americans have died because lack of PPEs and lack of proper medical care. A lot of them don't have health insurance to go to doctor. They die before get to the emergency. According to the studies done by MIT and John Hopkins, the numbers should be 10 to 12 times more, meaning that 180,000 multiplied by 10, 1.8 million people have died from coronavirus. Government lies too. Trump lies. And everybody knows he lies. They believe him because, see, this is entertainment. Trump is a showman, is an entertainer. And that's what I'm saying. Entertainment is to fool the people, to entertain them, to get them off the subject, to get my mind diverted to somebody else. It's just like whacking the dog situation, to get them distracted from this social issue. I used to, I watch movies sometimes, but I try to find a movie which has an interesting story. By putting violence and sex and drugs into movie to attract the youth and promote these. Promoting people are dying because of getting sick coronavirus, but Trump wants to open up the schools. He wants the game to go on. And if somebody objects to the racism in one of the games, he says, I don't watch that, so nobody else watch that. It's like Romans back in the old days. You mean the gladiators? They get these gladiators to kill each other for the entertainment of the king, but the gladiators were the one who were dying for entertainment of the Caesar. He thinks he's a king. This is a Rome here. He wants these gladiators to go at each other's neck, and if they die, they die. He wants to be entertained. And off of that, his base makes money because they sell advertisement, they sell right of distribution. See, imagine as soon as the NBA a couple of days ago, they said they don't play, they have meeting, and his son-in-law, Kushner, who is another psychopath who doesn't give a damn for anybody, just looking for profit and more money. He says, I'm going to talk to them to have a dinner. But they don't say that we're going to address, to go to the root of the problem to address it. Because if they go to the root of the problem, the address would be themselves. If you want to find the most dangerous man in the world, the most dangerous terrorist in the world, the most dangerous criminal in the world, the address is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Trump, because he's the one who assassinates people. He's a terrorist. He's the one who promotes war by getting people's money from them, who should be spent on healthcare and education in this country, for people, Americans, to be educated, to get educated so they can compete in the world, so they be healthier. They don't have to worry about if they get sick to go to hospital. And the older Americans who are retiring to have the Medicare and the medical need that they need, rather than investing money there, he's going to cut the taxes. He's going to cut the payroll tax, which goes to the Medicare and Medicaid. He's cutting Medicare and Medicaid. So he leave people alone, let them die. He makes profit for himself and entertainment for his friend, and his handful of his friends make billions of dollars a month. That is all Trump is all about. That's why he said that's my White House is his house. Why don't we change the name of the White House to President's House? So it is every president, regardless of color. Why does it have to be a color on there to create this kind of a situation, people? Trump uses religion to fool people. When he says, tell people to go ahead and Lafayette Park, demonstrators, gases them, beat them, comes and picks up a Bible in front of a church. He's trying to fool the ones who believe in that church, to fool them by that. Otherwise, he hasn't even read the Bible. Otherwise, the Bible says, do unto others as you expect them to do unto you. Is Trump doing unto others as he expects to be done do unto him? If he is, you be judge of that. He's not. Or the ones who go build a one religion state in Palestine, they're killing the Palestinian women, kings for kids and babies, and women killing the natives for 7 years and replace them with somebody from Russia or from other side of the world based on their religion. Are they Jews? They are not Jews, because Jews, I have a Jewish background. I'm from a city in Iran which was Isfahan, was built by Jews. Let me tell you something. If a Jewish Torah or the book of Jews, Torah, it says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. That is Jew. That is a Jew, true Jew. Now you're telling me those Zionist racists who have occupied that Palestine and killing women and kids and demolishing their homes to bring somebody just because it's free land and free money to put in his place, are they Jew? They're not. If they were, the Jews are not supposed to demolish their homes. They're supposed neighbors' homes. They're supposed to love their neighbors' homes. They are not Jewish. And these people who use the Bible to support that, they're not Christian either. The same way Trump is not. He's a fake. He just trying to use religion as a tool to fool the people, to divide the people, and to profit from it. Otherwise, a true Christian would not do what Trump does, and a true Jew would not do what the Zionists do. Zionists are not necessarily Jews. Not all Zionists are Jews. Not all Jews are Zionists. It's not. Zionism is racism. UN Resolution 3379 back in 1975. It was passed by United Nations General Assembly. All the countries in the world, they voted, Jews, they voted that Zionism, building a country based on Zionism, based on one religion, which is Zionism, is racism. And that's the United Nations General Assembly. They have over 131 resolutions have passed against Zionism, against Arab-Israeli conflict. I'm not Arab either. I don't have Arab friend. I don't even have black friend. I'm sorry, nothing against them. Just a place I live. There are not that many around here. I never had. The work I do, but I don't think they should be treated that way. They should be. There are any less than me. Any rights I have, they have too, regardless of their color, regardless of religion. I love United States Constitution. I've read it because I have law background too. I've studied law too. Let me tell you something. United States Constitution is the best that I can think of. I read. I love that, and I think it's right. But is the first person that violates U.S. Constitution is the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and the government of the United States that violates United States Constitution. The laws are fine. The laws are written good, but they are not abided with. Like there were civil rights that were passed in the United States after the slavery back in like 1886, I believe, 85. There's some laws were passed, civil rights, back in 1966, 1994. There were laws that were passed that is against the law to discriminate against religion, color of skin, national origin. But as I explained, I'm a victim of that many times. I told you one occasion. There have been many times this happened to me like this. But one of the instances I explained. But none of them stopped me from doing what I do. But I learned the fact. I'm not ignorant anymore. I'm talking here to eliminate the ignorance. Even Martin Luther King well said, he said sincere ignorance and conscious stupidity is one human enemy. Number one enemy of human is sincere ignorance and conscious stupidity. MLK Jr. And also Malcolm X says something very good right too. He says media is a powerful tool. It can portray a, a racist criminal as an innocent and a good, and evil, portray evil as good, and he can portray the good as evil. He has, that is the power he has, the media. That's why it's dangerous. And the corporate media in United States, according to Noam Chomsky, manufacturing consent. Noam Chomsky is a world renowned intellectual alive, most favorite renowned intellectual alive, 2005 and 2010 by New York Times, by survey that was done by Times among intellectuals around the world. Look at what he says. He's right, I think. And if you listen to him, then you know the corporate, this is the problem. The problem in America is a combination of the system. The system of the consists of the government, who is consists of individual racist individuals and greedy individuals, greedy psychopaths and racist psychopaths. They're in the government, in part of the Congress. I'm not saying all of them. You cannot say I don't know all of them, but majority of them are, because that's why we still these problems exist. But when before they elected, they say anything you like to get you. And the more ignorant people are, the more the lack of knowledge, but people believe them and take a gun, a 17-year-old, and go kills his countryman and woman just because he's ignorant. The guy is stupid. He doesn't know. But his elders, his president, they listen to the way he talks, Trump, or his base, and this kid listen to, and they are responsible for him to cause. Otherwise, 17-year-old kid, he hasn't gone to university, he hasn't studied anything. He just probably just what the system promotes, which is racism, that caused him to do that. It's not even his own fault. He's too stupid, ignorant. The criminals are stupid, therefore stupidity is a crime. He is criminal because he's stupid. But if you go research, you know where the problem is. The problem is the system that promotes racism, the system that promotes discrimination, the system that promotes terrorism around the world, and nurtures terrorism, and then creates and trained terrorists and warmongers. And then they come into the country, they become police officers and national guard, and they start killing Americans, and then discriminate against people, because the countries they invade to, they discriminate against those countries. They think the government is okay to discriminate against other people, because the government is supporting to build a country based on one religion, that religion has superiority over other religion. And then the soldier is fighting for the country to take over the world. So that soldier is fighting, promoting the racism. So when it comes to the country, it seems that's okay, because I've been sent out there, paid by my government to go fight it. Now I'm paying to fight it in home too. But in the America, the thing is fighting is killing Americans. He's killing the people, his own people. And then that is why we have all these riots. That's why we have all these demonstrations. I'm sorry if people don't get offended when I say riot. The people who put the shops on fire, or shoot places, or destroy public property, that is kind of, that's named riot. You can't put it any other name, you know. But the people who came peacefully demonstrate, they are demonstrators. But some people get emotional in these demonstrations because they know they are not getting anywhere. They say, we don't have it. I'm just explaining to you to understand why. I understand why they do that. Because they say they demonstrate peacefully, but nothing changes. And then they go deeper in poverty, deeper they lose hope, and they get to the point of destruction that they're going to die themselves. So they do this too. They go blow up these places. So if you want to solve this problem, we can kill these people, but how many are going to kill? Each one of them we kill, there are 10 of them are going to come. You know, Che Guevara, if you read his story, he said something very nice. I'm not a revolutionary myself, but I read a lot, and I've read this. He says you may be able to cut all the flowers. You may be able to cut all the flowers, but you cannot stop the spring. Trump and his base, his National Guard, his police, and every army, you send it to the streets of America. You may be able to cut all the flowers, but you cannot stop the spring. If this goes on, force by force, promoting discrimination, promoting division. This kind of president that's on there is divisive policies that he pursues. Eventually, the spring means the people are going to revolt. All the people in America, they're going to be so much killing, so much destruction that the biggest army cannot stop it. United Army even won't be stopped because the army is not going to kill his brothers and sisters and his mother, because eventually when they kill some people, some of them are going to be their brother. These army soldiers, they have brothers and sisters who live in this country. They have families in country. They're not going to kill their own families. So this is not going to work. The violence, you don't put violence out with violence. Victor Hugo says it very well. He says people do not lack the strength. People do not lack the strength. They lack the will. People do not lack the strength, they lack the will. If the people, all they need to get the will. Once they get the poverty gets to a point, the discrimination and racism get to the point that people creates the will. They know their life is not worth living. They all join. Then they're going to get the strength because some of these people are going to begun to come and kill the people. They're going to be their relatives. So they're eventually going to crowd. And then people who are ruling this country and causing this divisiveness and the turmoil, they are going to be endangered by American people. Look at the history of these revolutions, French Revolution, many countries. Their leaders, when they oppress people so much, ignorant, they become divisive. Eventually, they said, live by the sword, die by the sword. Eventually, they're the one themselves, they eventually get fall in danger. As Victor Hugo says again, no army can stop an idea when its time has come. No army can stop idea whose time has come. Okay, when the people, you keep making the country divisive, people go at each other's neck. These riots expand, they go bigger, and the army comes in the street. Army not going to kill everybody. People get a gun. Army. The revolution happens in this country. You know what going to disaster we're going to be in. So for the sake of peace, for the sake of harmony, for the sake of happiness, so we people can live in peace. Please do not be divisive. We have to unite people. How we unite people? We unite people with love. We're handing out candies, not bullets and guns. We unite people not by training killers, by invading other countries and supporting terrorism and supporting tyranny and supporting racism. That only produces criminals, terrorists, and then the chickens will come home to roost, and then it's too late. We need to stop that when we can. We need to demand our politicians to stop the divisive policies, to stop the racism, to stop investing in destruction, in wars, in producing more bullets than PPEs. Trump, he proud himself in his speeches that when he came to the presidency, there were not enough bullets in America. He says now we have more bullets than any other place. Now, these 180,000 Americans, according to the government, according to the research, 1.8 million people who have died as a result of COVID-19. Now, can any of these bullets save any of these people? Can any of these atomic bombs that Trump spent $76 billion to make a bigger atomic bomb, the $993 billion military budget of United States, can it save any lives fighting this coronavirus? And this is a small virus which we can't even see it with eyes. You have to use telescope to see it. And it's killing Americans by millions right now, or hundreds of thousands. But we're building bigger bombs. You see, this is the roots of the problem. The roots of the problem is the corrupt leaders, a corrupt president, a lying president who sits there right in front of the people, lies, and bunch of a ruling class psychopath who benefit from his lies, benefit from killing Americans. They all benefit. They are like Dracula. They blow and clap for him. and he has fireworks while people in front outside the White House on the street they're demonstrating because of hunger, because of racism, because of discrimination, and he sends the police to beat them up. And he said, "See, that reminds you what of? Do you think that is fair? Think about the whole picture. Is this America? I don't think so. They think I read about America. I know even despite of this criminal history of America, racism, slavery, and the wars past 100 years, the biggest wars and stuff, the Constitution of America is the best in the world. But unfortunately, all these government activities and psychopath politicians, none of them abide by U.S. Constitution. They violate it. That's why Americans are like that. If the government, as the government of the nation, is supposed to care for people, would follow the U.S. Constitution, every American should be able to go to up to university without really any expense. Because if 1% of the $1,000 billion military budget, we invest 1% of that, which is 10 billion, in universities and colleges, people don't have to get $100,000 loan, go in debt for the rest of their life to get a degree, for example, a 4-year university degree. Shouldn't cost them the $500 per unit. It should that the government should pay that with 1% of military budget, and the other 1% more, another 10 billion, put it in the healthcare. Then any virus comes, it can we can create a vaccine right away, and we prevent viruses from coming by improving healthcare for Americans. Is that benefit 1% of $1,000 billion is like 10 billion. 10 billion in healthcare a year, 10 billion in education will take care of the problem. Look at America would be much stronger. People would be much healthier. We won't have all these riots and destruction, and we don't have to kill. Government doesn't have to kill people to make more profit. Government can make profit through taxes that collects from the people who are well educated, very competitive in the world, and are healthy. That is should be happening. Excuse me. Let me. So that is better, or be divisive policies. Now I'm gonna let you go, but if you please listen to this and let me know if I'm wrong. If you have a better idea, or let me know so I can learn from you. But I think I have done 20 years of research, and I have multiple degrees, and I have had my own self-employed business, and I have done well. But I've achieved my goals even despite of all this discrimination against me. But and I do love America. I like. You don't want to live any other place in the world. It's a beautiful country, beautiful people, and I am what I wanted to do. From my intention is to make it better. And I think this is the way I can make it better by sharing my knowledge, what I have discovered with everybody in the world. I want to make the world a better place to begin. And we don't have to have all these wars in the world to make America better. By peace, we can make America better. And is our people, citizens of these countries, have obligation to do something about it peacefully. Riots, violence is not the answer. Demonstration, everybody have right. You have to say them. You can demonstrate, but you can demonstrate peacefully. But in order, the government is an evil agenda from the government too. The same government who's trying to kill people, he he plants seeds of violence among demonstrators, and they initiate violence to give justification to Trump to advertise for himself that I'm going to send the army and I'm going to quell the violence. See, from a person like Trump and Trump base and people like Trump, United States government with the history of atrocities in the world, it cannot be far-fetched that the government or Trump will plant violent people or terrorists among these peaceful demonstrators to initiate violence, putting places on fire or shooting at people like that kid who gone and police. Well, police was walking alongside of this kid. I saw in the video. You look at the video. The police are all around this kid with a gun, the 17-year-old. But they don't tell him what are you doing with this gun in middle of demonstrations. Peaceful demonstration. They police should get his gun. But police is a criminal like the kid. That's why they don't get his gun. Because they want him to do that to kill people. That's why I told you, because these police are army soldiers, a lot of them. They've been paid to kill people overseas. Now they come home and become police, and they do the same tactic. They kill people. Now army is giving excess surplus jeeps and stuff to the police. Army polices. They arm them like the soldiers that send them into other countries to kill peasants and natives, to put a puppet dictator in power. To ravage those countries like Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan. Libya was the richest country in Africa. Read it before the United States government, and they were Democrats who demolished Libya. So there is no difference between Democrats and Republicans. I'm not advertising for any of them. It's based on the actions of the humans. They should be judged. Humans should be judged based on their actions, not their color of skin, not their national origin, not their race, not their religion, not their party affiliation, their actions. And actions of the US government, as we see today, is terrorism, promoting terrorism and destruction all over the world and inside America. That's what we see. That's why police let this guy walk with a gun in the middle of there, and they don't even stop him to what is going with the gun. Go look at the videos. You see where the roots of the problem? The roots of the problem is the system in America. The system that that Trump makes Trump a president of this country, a racist, terrorist, killer, thief. Trump has filed 6 bankruptcies to make his wealth. You know what the bankruptcies is for his corporation? Meaning that he hired contractor to build his buildings, and when he came to pay the contractors, he filed bankruptcy. He says, "Oh no, the building is now worth that much. That's why I can't pay you. Either take for 100,000, you did work for me. Either take 10,000 or get nothing. Go." So that's stealing. He got people free labor. He screwed people. He got where he is, Trump, by screwing other people. Now you expect him to care for Americans? Good luck. So he's planting probably people, terrorists or criminals in these peaceful demonstrations or his base to put places on fire, so he can use a heavy-handed on these demonstrators, peaceful demonstrators, to quash them, to don't let the problem be solved, let not the problem be heard by everybody. See, this is the source of the problem. Not those poor people who come on the street hungry or don't have a job. Not the poor people who can't pay for their health care. They're dying from COVID-19, dying from homelessness, from lack of food. There are like I was reading some place. There are about 30 million American kids. They don't get enough food at night. Whereas Trump spends 1 trillion, $1,000 billion building bigger bombs and bigger more bullets and guns. And the people still clap for him and like him. Who claps for him? Bunch of psychopaths like him. Those people who are hungry, who are starving, they don't clap. So these evil in the White House is creating these problems. It's being divisive and planting. I would bet you is planting individuals in these demonstrations to put these fires, commit these shootings, and kill people so they don't demonstrate. And then blames Democrats or somebody else. I don't know. If Democrats, I don't think they do that. Why do the Democrats do that? They may not oppose these demonstrations because people are frustrated. But I'm sure they don't know American citizen in sound mind. It accepts a shop go on fire or a bank go on fire. It's the bank that we all use. If a bank gets on fire, I can go to the bank tomorrow. An ordinary American cannot use it. They don't do that. These are planted by the evils, like Trump, his agenda, his clan, and the racists who plan these people to cause this violence so he can use heavy hand and he can blame them on the demonstrators. This could happen. So the problem is the system of racism, discrimination, terrorism, warmongering, slave mastering, woman and baby killing, racism, Zionist apartheid system. These are the problem. The system that consists all of these, such as United States government, as we know. I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of people to the point that they are the ruling class, ruling the country, enough to rule the country because these are the policies that are being implemented right now. They should have enough support to majority are like that because majority support these policies. That's what these policies get implemented. These are the problems that the Americans need to know and find a peaceful way to correct them. Best wishes to all of you, and thank you very much for listening. And if you know different, please teach me too. I'm a student. I love going to school. I'm still going, and I've been going all of my life, but I've been having my own business and go to school too, and I'm still learning. But I decided to come and share some of it with you guys. Thank you very much, and wish everybody health and happiness, and stay safe away from coronavirus. Thank you very much. Bye.